Right, this one is called Bee Leaf, and I looked at it and I thought, yep, I know what that is. That's a leaf. So maybe it hasn't gone quite far enough. Your blurb says an existing thought or idea, but not having physical or concrete existence. I did read these and keep it in my mind. Doesn't attempt to represent external reality, seeks to achieve its effect using shape, colour and texture. So yeah, we have shape, we have colour, and we have texture. The only thing I felt is that when you do something like this, it's also got to be pictorial. And I wasn't totally convinced about having this central vein of the leaf slap bang in the middle, because what it does is to separate your picture into two halves. So, all right, they are not... Okay, what? Should I be reading this? No. They are not totally symmetrical, but, you know, sort of symmetrical, if you like. I do kind of like the colour. I like the fact that it's sort of vignetted. But I did find that when I was looking at it, my eye was just kind of going round and not knowing where to stop. And it kept zooming off up the, it's the wrong word to use, isn't it? It kept going up the diagonal lines and out on both sides of the picture. So in the end, I wasn't particularly enamoured of this one. And I'm afraid it started off, it got a 9. Okay, we've just had a competition that is ICM, and I presume that somebody has been having a go at this as well. I have to say, I like the bottom left-hand corner. Okay, this bottom diagonal third, I thought was lovely. I love the fiery sort of shapes that are coming up. I couldn't tell what it was, whether it was fire or whether it was buildings, and therefore it fits the abstract concept very well. My problem, though, is that if you ignore that bottom left-hand corner, 2/3 of this picture is white. And the problem is, if you've got a huge area of white on your screen, it's very, very bright. And your eye automatically goes there, doesn't it? Yeah, red shouts at you and draws your attention. But as soon as you looked at it, it then sort of wavers off into this large area of white. And you think, oh, I don't like that. I can see that somebody's thinking about negative space, etc., but I just felt there was too much negative space there. So what I wanted to do was actually crop it. And I thought if you took about 1/3 off the top and 1/3 off the right, it emphasized your lovely squirrely red bits and yellow bits, and there's still white bits in amongst that, and it made it much more dramatic. So to me, that's what it needed. If this is not what you were intending, if you were trying to show the start of a fire or something, it hasn't quite come across to me. So I'm afraid that was another one that got 9. Autumn leaves. I felt this is another ICM. Somebody has seen this rather nice little path and the framing trees, and you've got a lovely sky in the background with blue and puffy white clouds. It's got all the elements, the right elements, hasn't it? A slightly twisty path, so it leads you in. And then they've done the sort of joggle for the ICM. Not sure I'm a fan of ICM. It gives you a feeling of abstraction. No, that's the wrong word. Slightly abstract, but not very much so. It's only just started on the route towards being an abstract picture, because I can really still see trees and paths and fences and sky, because they're the things I described to you to start with, aren't they? So if I was able to describe them that well, then it hasn't gone far enough. The last picture had gone too far. This one hasn't gone far enough. So that's going to join the others at a 9. Right, now this is a bit different. Let me explain how I judged. When I looked at them, I just sort of went through the whole lot. And then, because I downloaded them onto my computer, I then started moving them into 3 bands. The ones I really, really liked, the ones I was, yeah, it's pretty good, and the ones I didn't like so much. And then I left them. I moved them around, actually put them into 3 bands. And then I left them for 24 hours, 36 hours, 2 or 3 days, I think it was in the end. And then I came back to them and I had another look. And this is the way I normally do it. And I'm kind of looking at them going, why did I put that in the band I don't like? And why did I put that in the band I do like? And I start moving them around. And I have another go at them. And then I leave them again. And I probably do this 2, 3, perhaps 4 times before I'm happy with the order. With the one I think is going to win right at the end, and going downwards through the ones I don't like so much. And this ended up in the sort of the middle band, in that it was different, partly because it's sort of browny grey. It has very little colour to it, and yet it does have some colour. It does also have an element that I can recognise. It's got a hand, which is kind of repeated 3 times. It's got a face that is really only there once. The rest, it's sort of swirled away. And we've got, if you like, 2 halves. I've got the hand below the face. And it's definitely abstract. It's not a straight representation of a portrait or something like that. And yet it's recognisable as a portrait. So I felt this was pretty good. It was on the sort of, as I say, in the middle band. Not brilliant, because there was some, I'm afraid, that absolutely just jumped out at me and went, yeah, these are going to win. So this one ended up, Mystical, with 15. Yeah. You look at this and you go, right, I have definitely got a black hole in the middle. Not a great deal within the black hole. All right, around the outside, it's all lovely and squirrely and abstract-y colours, and it does lead you into the sort of central circle, which is sort of blue and pink and green. And then there's this wiggly black line in the middle with some horizontal bits. Now, I don't feel quite as if there's enough within this central circle. I've got things leading me in, quite a sort of regular pattern on the outside, if you think about it. But then it leads me in and I'm going, okay, so now what? Did you start off with the title and try and make something that fitted the black hole? Or did you get the picture and then go, God, what on earth am I going to call this? Oh, well, let's call it Colourful Black Hole. But actually the black hole is not really colourful, is it? It's the outskirts that are colourful. And it is very central, isn't it? You look at this and you go, yep, that's in the middle. And I'm not totally convinced about that. It, I'm afraid, went downwards, down into the other group, and I'm afraid it got the 9. Right, now this one caused me a problem. It moved position quite a lot. First of all, I thought, okay, just blocks of colour. Yeah. And it's got diagonals and sort of triangles and things like that. Not sure about that. And it started off fairly low. And then it moved up, because actually it stayed in my mind. And I quite like this. It is definitely abstract. I like the complementary colours. I like the blue and the yellow. They certainly grab your attention. I can't tell whether it is sorry, just indicating to my husband that it all works fine at the moment. I couldn't tell whether it was something that you'd just taken a photograph of, a bit of something, or whether it was something you'd created. Down in the bottom left-hand corner, you've got what looks like a hinge. So it could be part of a piece of machinery. And something in the blue of the central dark blue area, there's some sort of black bits. And I thought, I don't know what those are. Now, I did wonder whether you should actually crop off the right-hand side because there's a little, down at the bottom right, there's a triangle of blue appearing. And I wasn't totally convinced about that bit. I kind of putting my hand up and going, I think I would have preferred not to have it, or else have a bit more. The other thing's top right-hand corner, the blue, it's not a triangle, it's a strange shape. It's much lighter than the rest. It's caught the light. And I think you need to go back and have a little play with that and make it a bit darker so that it's the same tonal shade as the rest of the blues. You've got some sort of quite dark, almost black bits at top left edge, and they were a bit dark, you know. And I'm kind of looking at this, going, would I crop a bit off the top and would I crop a bit off the right? And I sort of felt maybe I would, or maybe would I take off the hinge because that's too factual. I can see there's a hinge, and if this is abstract, I shouldn't be able to see that hinge. But I do actually like the blocks of colour, the block of the yellow and then the blue broken up. So in some ways I loved it, in some ways I didn't like it. So it ended up with 13, 1-3. Right, this is another one that caused me some angst. I couldn't understand it, so that was good. I wondered if it was actually ice, a block of ice that you'd done something with. And then I couldn't work out what the round blobby bit was at the bottom, whether it was an ice cube or whether it was ice on an Icelandic beach or something like that. It looks like bubbles that are frozen in time. So that's different, totally abstract. And yet there is a shape there, isn't there? You've got this circle that it's not coming away from, the bubbles not coming away from it. There is some feeling of change. And therefore a title like Genesis does work. I did wonder whether your blob should have been at the top, because, or your swirly circles, your funny lines should have been pointing towards it, because if it was Genesis, it should be a starting point and then going out from that. Whereas this is a sort of blob at the bottom, but the other doesn't appear to be going out from it. So again, there were things I liked about it and things I didn't like. I love the muted colour. You know, you don't have to have incredibly bright, vibrant colours. This works. And if you're like me, your eye has gone from the darker bits at the bottom up to the sort of the bit at the top right where you've got the ends of these bubbles with sort of circular blobs on them. They almost look like fingernails, don't they? And I thought, yeah, that does quite work. So that one was another one that got 13, 1-3. All right, a good abstract image. It's clearly water on a windscreen or something like that, and you're looking at things through it, or it's a reflection in a puddle of water or something like that. We know it's water, we can tell that, and it's got various shapes within the water droplets, but it's also got shapes in the background. So we've almost got a face here, because we've got two eyes and a nose and two white cheeks. Well, that's what I saw. Or it could be anything. It could be a car or a building. I don't know. But because it suggests a variety of different things, that makes it abstract. I like, again, the reduced number of colours. So we've got black, off-white, blue, and sort of lighter blue. And that's interesting, isn't it? Because, again, you're not requiring a huge variety of colours for this. It's contained. So your black and white image is within the blue. It's got blue all the way around. And it's kind of diagonal as well. And I think the sort of diagonal image to that, shape to it, is good. So form, texture, shape. So that one ended up with 15, 1-5. Yeah, this caused me a problem. I looked at this and I go, okay, yeah, clever title, clever production. How did they do it? Do I like it? Well, yeah, I do quite like it, actually. It's got this massively textured background, and then it's got the silhouette of whatever, the round circle, and just appearing behind it is the orange-red bit that is the sun appearing from, you know, the shadow of the moon or whatever it is. So somebody has been very, very clever. I like the fact that the horizon at the bottom wasn't actually totally level. right, that it actually goes diagonally up. And I thought someone's been really, yeah, they've set this up, haven't they? How clever of them. And the orange red sun, for want of a better word, has almost got another halo beside it, another little streak of orange just on the background. And it's got all this negative space, which is actually filled up with the texture, the background. And I thought, that's clever. So for cleverness, 14, 1-4. Yeah, I thought that this amused me. I looked at it and I went, yeah, okay, they're mussels, they're mussel shells. Are these meant to look like people's muscles? Why have we got these odd shapes? Somebody has had, if you like, a technical exercise here. They've taken a photograph of some mussels, perhaps, real ones, and then they've altered them considerably in various ways. So we've got the sort of black and white ones going up and down. We've then got the black ones, which is just a silhouette behind. Then we've got the white ones, again, diagonally behind that. And then somebody's put a circle of mauve and pink somewhere on a layer. And then they've put these white bits, grey bits, purpley bits, lines across them. And I'm thinking, why? You have to have something in mind. Now, what was the concept behind this? Was the concept to just play around with augmented reality because you can, and then when you finish it, go, what else should I add? And now I've got to think of a title. Or did somebody start out with an idea that was designed to make me think about arm muscles or fish muscles? And I don't know. I'm not sure that it is abstract enough in some ways, because I can recognize the mussel shells. To me, it ended up being a technical exercise. So I didn't actually, in the end, like it a lot. I'm afraid it got 9. Yeah, this one is much simpler, isn't it? Somebody has gone for a beautiful bit of landscape, Lake District or somewhere like that, and has zoomed with their lens. But it's effective, isn't it? Now, normally I hate zoom images like this because they make my eyes go funny, but they haven't done this one too much. So I've still got a little recognizable bit at the end, you know, a little bit of the shoreline of the lake with a bit of grass. And I can recognize there are trees there just, and a bit of sky and a bit of foliage. So I actually felt this worked reasonably well. Again, when you do this sort of zooming effect on an overcast day, you end up with muted colors. So we've got sort of browns and greens and just some blues as well. But it makes a very sort of tranquil, despite being zoomed, makes kind of a tranquil scene because of the colors. You know, if they'd been vibrant, it would have been glaring and horrible. And I felt that worked really quite well. So that one ended up with a 13, 1-3. Yeah, I think this has gone for the vibrant end, hasn't it? I suspect Photoshop or something like that has swirled it round, or maybe you put something on a turntable and took a picture as it went round. I don't know how it's produced, but it gives you a swirl. It's called pixel vortex. So yes, all right, it's been pixelated and then swirled around in some way. The colors are quite pleasing. You kind of, your eyes start going a bit funny if you move your head too quickly. Again, you have to ask what you would use it for. Is this too concrete in a way? Because I can see that it's a very distinct spiral. It works, but it's not going to actually grab my attention and say, I want to keep looking at this. I can see that it would make a good cover for a CD or something like that. You know, it is it looks as if it's been designed for that in mind. Um, I would be using it as a background to something, say. So it's not really abstract enough for me. All right, I don't know what it is. I don't know what you started with. So in that way, it is abstract, but it's not pleasing enough in the end because that spiral is too obvious. So that one ended up with 12. Yep, I couldn't work out the title. Now, maybe I'm just being ignorant, because when I looked at this, I went, that's fish. Why didn't it get called something to do with fish? Maybe a claustro is a fish. I don't know. It's an all over picture, isn't it? It is abstract in that there's so many fishes there. And you can't pick out a fish and then go, have I got that one again? Or if you do, your eyes start going funny. So somebody has produced something that is abstract from, I don't know how many fish they took to start with. It's against an odd background as well, because if you kind of look past the fish, you can see that there is like a set of vertical lines with green behind it, and it's called claustro, Claustro, for Karen. It's odd, isn't it? Your eye just keeps going all over the place. There is nowhere to settle, except sometimes one of the fish's eyes catches your attention and you go, oh, that's a fish's eye. And then you look at another fish and there's no eye and you think, what's happened to the eye? You know, some of those have got eyes and some of them haven't. So it isn't uncertain. But in some ways, it's too much all over that there isn't enough of a pattern. The last picture had too much of a pattern. It just took me into the middle. This one hasn't got enough of a pattern to say, hey, look, Judge, this is where I want you to look. And abstract still has to have a point of interest, okay? So Claustro gets 12. Right, now this is, again, an interesting one. You're going to start realizing that maybe I quite like muted colors because, again, here we have muted colors. It's clearly water, it's moving. It says it's the longing of the sea, so yes, that looks right. We've got sea clearly in the background and presumably surf in the foreground. Oh, claustrophobic, thank you. I'm looking at the chat that comes up every now and then. So going back to this longing for the sea, I liked this one. I felt that there was a diagonal feel to it from sort of top left to not bottom right, but going towards the halfway down the right-hand side, where above that, it's more obviously sea with these lovely colors of strange greens and almost yellows. And then the bottom half of the picture was obviously surf, because we've not only got the sort of diagonal lines, we've also got some vertical lines that go across it. And we get some other small color coming in, almost purpley pink coming in as well. And whether the sun, the light has hit the waves, we've got the yellow again. So I thought this is quite nice. Yes, my eye is wandering around, but I'm also fixing on certain areas going, oh, I like that bit. I like the sort of top middle bit where you've got some three little blobs. I like the central bit where we've got some diagonal, almost vertical lines. And that one grabbed my attention. This went into the top band, but at the bottom of the top band. So it got 16, 1-6. Well done, Kirsty. Right, now the dome. I've got lots of pictures like this. When you go to Liverpool or something like that, there's all kinds of places which have lovely domes, and you take them. Now, the question is this enough of an abstract? Yes, it's got shape and form. It's sort of oval, and it's recurring ovals, and we haven't quite got much of the exterior of the dome. We have on the sort of the edges, particularly on the right. So I can see that it's a building. It hasn't, in some ways, it hasn't gone far enough to create that total feeling of abstract. And again, unfortunately, this central area, despite all its radiating lines, is white. So again, look at the whole picture. at least almost a quarter of this picture is white, and I just find that too bright. I would prefer to have some kind of, I don't know, maybe blue. I mean, you've got really middle, it's just blue. But, you know, if that central domed white area was actually coloured in some way, you know, pick up the colour from the rest of the picture and put that into it, I think this would help. But again, for me, it was just a bit too concrete, if you like. I could tell what it was, and I felt that hasn't gone far enough, despite having pattern and shape. So that one was down to 9 again. Right, I've done lots of pictures like this. I belong to the PSA, the Photographic Society of America, and a couple of years back, there was a guy who did an article in the journal who told you how to do them. And I went, oh, I like that. And I produced quite a lot of them. But I have to say, I do tend to use them as backgrounds for things and not just use them as they are without something else. Yes, it's abstract. Yes, it has a pattern. So it does fit your title. You can do all kinds of these with different photographs that, and you need to keep doing them, because then you get different colors that perhaps are more complementary, perhaps don't go out to such a pale outside. You know, this is very dark at the top and much paler colors at the bottom. And I wasn't sure that that was the right way round. You know, you can turn this upside down and redo it, and you'll get a different picture. Every time you do them, you get a different picture. I've done them with all sorts of bits. You know, you can do the village, the landscape, you can do them with anything you like. And they're fascinating. So I do quite like this. It's very bright. The orange on the left, the blue on the right, and then this sort of point of focus. Now, could you actually crop it a bit so that that central cross is not just off center, but is perhaps more on the thirds? You know, we're supposed to put things on the thirds. Just shift it up a bit towards the top left, and I think that would make the shape better, and it kind of would work even more as an abstract picture. Even so, I gave it 15, 1-5. Yeah, I quite like this one as well. Again, it's called City Lights. Somebody's taken something fairly simple and done some squiggles with it. Moving your camera is probably the easiest way to do it, but easy is not the right word. It's still quite hard to get it right. Okay, and these are all kind of diagonal. So we've got bottom left to top right. We've got some variations of color, mostly yellow, but there's some little tiny bits of blue, and there's some white on the right-hand side. Does it need more color? It says it's city lights, so presumably it's taken at night, of some kind of shop lights or something like that. But yeah, it does work, doesn't it? You still have this problem, though, that when you're judging a competition, you've got to decide whether, first of all, they fit the title and whether they're going to hold your attention. So is there enough in this? Yes, it fits the title, but is there enough in this to make it stand out from the rest? So this went into my middle band, not into my top band, and it got 13, 1-3. This one is interesting. I'm not a fan of bokeh, and I usually go, oh, I don't like that. So to start with, this started off quite low down. And then when I'm going through them, I kept thinking, do you know, I quite like that. And shifting it upwards. And somebody said, that's lovely. And in the end, I decided it was quite lovely. You've got the flower, I think they're sweet peas, contained within the area. You've got some leaves, and you've got a nice curly stem leading up to the flowers. We've got these bouquet blobs of all different colours, and somehow they do actually complement the flower you've got in the background. The sort of the background to the whole flower itself has gone quite pale, so it stands out. And as I say, it actually kept calling me back, and in the end, I decided it was rather nice. And it got 16, 1-6. Right, now, I spent this summer in lockdown um, doing a lot of macro work. And funnily enough, one of the things I did was to try and recreate some Mondrian. And I think this one's probably rather better than mine. I did it with coloured bits of paper, and it was only when I got the pictures, looked at them big on the screen, I realised that my paper, being very textured, has also got lots of edges that are tatty, whereas this one doesn't. And I loved the framing of it, the fact that you didn't only create or recreate a Mondrian, and you were brave. You've got 3 areas that are actually black, and yet it's weird because you can see through those to the base, the thing it's standing on. We've got a bit of light on the bottom. So it's kind of weird, isn't it? It's not a painting, it's not quite a picture, and yet it's got a frame, and it's still got this element at the bottom. So that one actually ended up with 19. Good one. Oh, Brad's going to like me. Yep, this one is a simple idea, isn't it? And it doesn't always work. It's obviously a bit of a landscape. If you turn your head sideways, you realize it's a sort of lake with a rock behind it. But what somebody has done is to turn it sideways, flip it, and what have they got? Something that looks like a face. So rock face fits perfectly. It doesn't always work like that. Okay, it's odd because the right-hand side is sharp, the left-hand side is all fuzzy because it's a water reflection. But it does work. And again, one that I initially thought, not so keen on that, actually worked its way up, and it ended up with 18. Well done, Mandy. Right. I thought this was lovely. Again, it's kind of along the lines of that Mondrian, but somebody's been clever. They've created a triptych for a start. They've created the 2 outside pictures, and then you look at them and you go, no, they're not. They're different. And they're sufficiently different that you sort of think, oh, I like that. We've got a black center and then a white bit, and then we've got some diagonal lines going across it. And then that one in the middle just grabs your attention, doesn't it? Because it's got the red. And again, the shapes of that are different. And I thought, this person's clever. Oh, I do like that. And this one got 18. Now, having said I wasn't keen on ICM, I like this one. It is clearly a woodland. It's got beautiful colours. It's sufficiently abstract that it's not a pure record of a bit of woodland. But the person who took it has been clever. We haven't got at the top lots of like white sky coming through and glaring at you. There's some odd bits of white, but not very much, just over on the right hand side. And they're acceptable. I actually loved the left hand side more than the right hand side, but then the whole thing is part of, you've got to look at the whole thing. It makes you want to walk through this wood and be there. And again, although it's joggled, sorry, intentional camera movement, it is still in some ways a tranquil scene. I can't pick out anybody else there. There's nothing to distract from the leaves, the foliage, and the light. And it's just beautiful light, isn't it? And this one ended up with 19. Okay, now there's a couple a bit like this that are odd. They're good, they're different. They're also odd because I don't always understand the title. It's called The Wheel. And I'm thinking, where's the wheel? And I couldn't pick it out. I love the way it's fractured. Now, I mean, one of the other titles was called Fractures. This one could have been called Fractures as well. I do like the muted colours again, the fact that you've got basically black and blue and then just 2 little areas of green. And I'm trying to work out where the greens come from. It doesn't matter where it's come from. It's part of the whole again. I love the sort of the radiating spines that are coming away from this sort of slightly green area in the middle. somebody said it's the big wheel. I can't tell that. Maybe that's what it is. And it's got pods around the outside. It doesn't matter. It is lovely and abstract. And I want to know how somebody produced these fractured lines. But I did like that. That one got 16, 1-6. Okay, I suspect this has been done by the same person who did the other ones. And I'm afraid I compared them and I went, oh, I like this one. I like this one even more than the other one. I like the big picture on the right and the two small ones on the left, that they kind of balanced. I like the reds because that grabs your attention. I like the shapes. And that one, in the end, that was my winner. That got 20. So brilliant. Now, I use Fractalius as well. And yes, lots of clapping. I use Fractalius, and it produces these lovely airy fairy sort of wispy bits, you know, coming out from whatever you like. And again, I can't tell what this is, but I love the colors. I like the diagonal shape. I like the fact that bottom left, top right, you've got oranges and yellows and greens. And then in the middle, you've got this sort of complementary color of the blues. And then purple's just creeping in on the bottom right. So really interesting. And it was one of the ones, you know, when I'm picking the winner, the top half dozen, I'm going, do I like this one better than that one? Do I like that one better than this one? It is very difficult at that point to decide what's going to win. And another judge might change my order. This one got 18 weight. It looks like neurons in the brain. Right, this one caused me problems because I don't understand the title. I'm looking at this going, are they bricks? Okay, if they're bricks, why are they floating in the clouds? I can't work it out. And if they're not bricks, what are they? I don't know. I mean, it's called The Price of Unsuccess. I'm going, why? I mean, in the end, I have to ignore the title and just look at the picture. Does it have too much concreteness to it? Well, it's bricks and it's clouds and it's being put together, but actually it is sort of abstract because I don't understand it. And surely one of the things about abstract is that you don't really quite want to understand it, or you can make of it what you want. So you can look at it and go, well, I think that's something. Maybe it's not what the author thought, but it's what I've got from it. So, you know, does everything go up to the cloud and then just fall apart? Yeah, I think it does. So anyway, that one ended up with 16, 1-6. Right, this looks to me like a dahlia that's had things done to it. And I'm not sure about this. It's very in your face. It's very much gaudy. You know, this pinky red and then the purple, both colors, they're vying for attention. They're actually, you know, they're clashing, aren't they? They're not conducive to tranquility or anything. So really almost nasty colors because there's two of them fighting for attention. I can see the shape of the flower, and it incorporates the whole of the picture area. So I have to kind of sit back from it because to get too close to the screen, it's just not right. And I'm afraid in the end, it was too obviously a flower, and I wasn't happy with the colors. So that ended up with a 10. Yeah, again, Super Mario's Heaven. It's obviously some kind of industrial building, those air vents, chimneys, whatever they are. I don't know where it is. Probably it's somewhere in Lancaster and you all know. But for me, although it shapes and it's set against a clear blue sky, I'm not, oh, okay, Paris, thank you. I don't know that it is far enough away from the obvious to be an abstract. You know, I should be concentrating or noticing the shapes, and I'm not. I'm looking going, that's a chimney, that's an air vent, that's a lamp. And if I'm doing that, then it isn't abstract enough. I want it to be one step further away. I did wonder whether it was the Pompidou Centre. It's a long time since I've been there. It needs to be a step away from this concrete representation of this building. So I'm not convinced about that one. So that one got 10. Yeah, I think the Fractalius filter's been used again. Clever title, obviously inside some kind of cathedral or church, a huge building. And you've got these, again, lovely shapes. I mean, we've got the triangles which go into the curves and the arches. It's been well put together. It's definitely a step away from the representation. I like the muted colours again. We've got the yellows and then white and brown, but there's not too much white here. Slight feeling of perspective. I wasn't sure whether that was best or whether I would have straightened it and made it, warped it a little bit so it was less perspective. But I think probably I would have left it like it is. So that one got 16, 1-6. Right, I'm not sure about this one. It's something you can do on Photoshop, and it's almost as if you've sort of picked a picture and then gone, press a button, yeah, try that one, no, try this one, no, try this one, no, try this. Oh, that'll do. It doesn't have a feeling for me. It doesn't produce, it's called Nemesis, but it didn't produce a feeling of nemesis for me. Nemesis is, that's what's going to happen to you and there's nothing you can do about it. Whereas this was just like an oval with multicolored shapes in it, and on the outside you've got these sort of fragile bits coming away from it. I usually like muted colors, but I felt this actually hadn't got enough vibrancy to bring my eyes in. Maybe you need to darken the corners or make the center part much brighter and grab my attention a bit more, sort of perhaps vignette it in some way to give a shape and a form to it. Because at the moment it just looks like if you like, an exercise in how to do with Photoshop filters. So it ends up with 11. This one is simple, isn't it? I mean, it's probably just a reflection of a building in water, maybe cleaned up a bit, simplified a bit, but because of that, it works quite well. I do like the sort of swirly white lines that go across it, because they're not straight across. They've got, they've got curves to them, and they are mirrored by the dark grey lines that go across. And then you've got the two white columns on the left-hand side, which are, they've followed what you're supposed to do, put them on the third, so they're over on the left-hand side. But that works. Sometimes it does work to follow the rules. I wasn't totally convinced about the blue blobs at the top. And I did wonder if actually I would just have chopped them all off and had the top of my picture as the black. But I don't know. I'm not quite sure about that. But I did keep coming back to this one because I liked the gentle curves going across this fairly plain, but actually still textured blue water. There's a couple of artifacts, dust spots, things floating in the water, white bits that I would have taken out. But apart from that, it got 15, 1-5. Yeah, it's got sunburn. I think rust is more. It's, you look at it and you go, okay, it's a bit of a machine, it's a bit of a ship or something like that. Not quite sure what it is, but it's obviously rusty metalwork, isn't it? And it's almost falling out the bottom of the picture. There's too much there of blue sky at the top. I think you could have cropped a bit off the top, maybe a bit off the right-hand side or the left-hand side, sort of shift it up in the picture area so that I was more concentrating on this rust. In fact, I would have taken a picture just of the rust. I would have ignored the sky completely, and I would have homed in on a very small area of rust. I have lots of pictures of rust because I think it's beautiful. It creates fabulous abstract patterns, and I'm not looking at blank sky, because again, half this picture, nearly half this picture, is just blue blank sky, and I don't need that. So it for me, you've missed the picture here. You needed to go down and get in close. It got 11. Yeah, now okay. It's called Don't Blink, so that's what cars do, I suppose. When you turn on the lights to indicate you're going to go right or left or whatever, they blink at you. Um, it's a very sharp, clear representation of a bit of a car. Yes, you've gone in close, so it's not the whole car, obviously. It is a part of it. So we're looking at a bit, but it's the kind of thing that you'd put in a brochure to say, buy this car, look what it looks like. It's got these fantastic lights, and it's got white lights above it that go yellow when you turn a corner. It's red. Let's grab your attention with the red car. And I just felt that it was too sharp, too close up, too clear. If I want an abstract, that's not an abstract picture, not really. I know it's got circles and then the odd housing of the light itself, but I don't think that's abstract enough for me compared with the other pictures in this group of pictures. So that ended up with 11. Yeah, picture of a bit of rock. I'm not quite sure how you've got these sort of colours, some kind of polarized light perhaps on it. I won't say an ex-geographer, because you can't ever be an ex-geographer, but I do like rocks and geography, so I went, oh, it is interesting. It is interesting. You can't tell what it is. I mean, it could be cells in the body, it could be all sorts of things. So it's just gone sufficiently abstract for me to go, I don't know what that is. It's got weird colours, sort of pinky purples and greens, and then these odd shapes that kind of honeycomb together. I like the fact that you put the pinky one sort of in the middle, not quite. So that kind of works, but then it's not enough to keep my attention for very long. Perhaps because the overall effect is very much the same sort of tone. And I think perhaps what I needed from this was maybe a vignette, maybe that central pinky purpley one, brighter in colour, to make me look from the outside towards the centre. You know, that there isn't one bit that keeps my eye. My eye just keeps going round and round and round. So somehow, even within the abstract, you've got to make the judge look at what you want them to look at. And you've got to do it either with colour or tone or something like that. So agate gets 11. Now this one has more of a way of making me look, because although an awful lot of the picture is just blobs of water with slightly fuzzy lines going across and diagonally, then there's a bit bottom center that I can focus on. And your diagonal lines bring me into that, and that's sharp and it's brighter, and it's got a circle around it to say, hey, look, this is the bit you want me to look at. So I don't know what it is, and that's good. But there is something that keeps saying, hey, come down here and look at this. So you've made the judge do what you wanted. The colours are fine. It's all basically brown and yellow, you know, and that's great. And the lighting's interesting. So that one ended up with 14, 1-4. Right, Fractalius again. I know it's easy. You just pick a picture and stick it in Fractalius and change things around a bit and see what comes out. But actually, it's quite difficult to do, because you do it and you look at your resulting picture and you go, well, that didn't work. Whereas I think this one does work. It looks like a portrait. We can almost see two black eyes and a nose in the middle. We've got a mouth in yellow at the bottom. And then we've got these brain waves, these yellow bits at the top. And the surrounds is black. So I've got a feeling of a head with things going on inside it. And yet clearly it's not a head, is it? It's all odd, wispy lines. So I did like that one. It got 17, 1-7. And another one that looked a bit like Fractalius again to me. I wasn't so convinced about this one, called the Arthurian legend. And I wondered what, I mean, the Arthurian legend should be, you know, somebody rising up out of the water with a sword, but I couldn't see this look like a sword. It looked more like fingers, or posts. And the background water is very insistent. So an idea that I don't think has quite worked. Again, when you do things with Fractalius, it's quite difficult to get something that does work. So I'm afraid that one got 14, 1-4. Where the legend happened. Okay. Yeah. This one again, another ICM one where things have been moved around. It's gone one stage further than that tree one that I liked so much. I can still see that there are trees. It's an up and down movement. Couldn't quite work out what the blue was. It doesn't matter, but it kind of makes you feel that you're going into a woodland, and then I'm not quite sure what happens at the bottom. So in some ways, it had gone almost too far. There's nothing for my eye really to settle on. I'm moving through the woods, but then I go out on the right-hand side of the picture. If it's called, yes, gondolas, so we're talking about Venice, I suppose those uprights are the posts that they're attached to, and the blue is the gondolas themselves. Okay, but I couldn't tell that from the picture, so it has gone perhaps a bit too far. So that got 13, 1-3. Now I like this, and I know I'm saying you shouldn't have sort of hard and fast shapes, but somebody's created hard and fast planets, haven't they? And I don't know how they've done it. So we've got different sizes, we've got different colors, and yet they sort of blend together. So we've got the half and half yellow and brown, and then we've got the yellow behind, and we've got the brown above, and then this swirl on the left-hand side that sort of makes you look past it to the planets in the background. And yet it's obviously not planets, is it? So I thought that was pretty clever. It is abstract shapes, except there are circles there. And yet it's not all circles. So you start going, yeah, it works. And then you go, no, it doesn't work. And then, but I like it. And it's dramatic, isn't it? It makes you look back at it. So yellow planets get 17, 1-7. Yeah. Don't understand the title again. It doesn't matter. We've got some different shapes. It looks like barbed wire, doesn't it? I mean, that central little bit. It's sort of swirly things, but then it's got sharp bits as well. And all the bottom half is all squirrely, but with sort of splinters coming out of it. So it's different, isn't it? Does it have enough to maintain my eye within the picture? Not sure. I did like it, but not as much as I like some of the others. So that one ended up with 14, 1-4. Right. Yes, somebody, I don't know what it is. It says it's a cell. So we've got something that looks like you're looking down a microscope and you're looking at these weird shapes. And it's lighter on the outside and it goes darker towards the center. So it does give you a feeling of the microscope and the cell that you're looking at. What I couldn't work out was why some of it was nicely sharp in the sort of dark purpley ring, and then the almost black ring, and then it went out of focus in the center, and it had started off being out of focus. I was trying to tell myself that it ought to be either sharp on the outside and going more blurred, or it should be out of focus on the outside and going more sharp in the middle, just to stop my eyes going funny, really. I think it's clever. I didn't know how it was done, but I didn't like it in the end. I felt it was unsatisfying because it was neither one thing nor the other. So I'm afraid that one got 12. Right, this is another one of those fractured ones, these vertical lines that have broken up whatever it is behind. I don't know whether it's sort of, a city lights or something like that. I didn't think this one was as successful as the previous one. The previous one had more drama, if you like. This one, it is more to do with lurid colors. So we've got lime green and orange, and then we've got this dark blue, and we've got lines going in all directions, and I can't tell at all what it is. But I felt the other one was better than this one. The other one was more attractive in terms of shapes. This one is just in your face color, and it didn't appeal in the same way. So Winter Night gets 14, 1-4. Yeah, simple. A lot of take pictures like this, but it is abstract, isn't it? All right, we know what it is. It's a reflection on water of the mast of a boat, but because you've got these lovely sort of wiggly shapes, and not just one, but sort of bits beside it joining in, and it shades from the sort of paler yellowy browns. You know, the color palette is very attractive, isn't it? Going to the darker sort of teal colored at the bottom. And I found that very, very attractive. So Windermere Shapes gets 14, 1-4. Yeah. Now, lockdown daydreams, things that we ought to be able to do and we used to be able to do. You know, we used to be able to go to gigs and shows and go to demos and meet other people, and we can't anymore. So it's a good idea. It so I love the sort of the airy fairy wispy bits down at the bottom, but maybe she's just a bit too um, sharp. And if she's daydreaming, I think she might have had it. All right, I know it's a daydream, so she could have her eyes open. But would it be better if she'd had her eyes shut? I also felt that it was a bit odd because she didn't appear to be supported by anything, which worried me slightly. So it's a good idea, but I'm not sure you've done it the best way you could. So she gets 14 for the idea, but I don't think you've done it well. This is easy, isn't it? I mean, what is it? Somebody's crayons, something like that. Jiggle it around a bit, get these beautiful colours, and you've got a picture. And initially I thought, oh no. And then I kept coming back to it and going, actually, I quite like that. You've got the grey all the way around the outside, you've got the proper colours, and it's sort of out of focus. So I can't tell what it is. And these colours work together. So in the end, that one ended up with 16, 1-6. Yeah, another one of the swirly ones. I think you've done it with something that's fairly simple. Maybe it's grass or trees or something like that, and water. So it's only got like two colours in it. I think there's a bit too much white, but I would actually, and I do like the point of focus being over on the left, and I like the swirl. But you've only got a swirl one way, and I think if you had did it again, swirled it the other way, you might have, sorry, you might have got a more interesting pattern. It's okay. It's not brilliant. So it gets 13, 1-3. Yeah, little tiny fungi with little drops of water balancing on them, hence the title. I think that it needs a little bit more abstractness to it. I can see that these are fungi. I can see there are leaves. I can see there's moss. Yes, it's got a nice diagonal line, but I'm not sure that it's enough of an abstract pattern. They're odd shapes, the fungi themselves, but it's too much an obvious picture, a macro picture. So it went down to 12. I couldn't work out what these were. It says Barnacles, no, yeah, Barnacles Army. And I'm going, are they barnacles? What are they? Okay, so it's just a pattern. And you've got a streak across the sort of middle, not even a streak, you've got an area across the middle. I did wonder if it was taken with a lens, baby, because there's one area sharp and all the rest is not sharp, you know, and it is definitely just a pattern, isn't it? So it goes diagonally across. We've got the same sort of colours. We've got blues, we've got greens, we've got reddish, orangey, yellow bits. But my eyes just, it's a bit like those Zoom photographs. My eyes don't know where to stop. They keep going everywhere. Yeah, I think a kitchen grater as well. But it needs something else to focus my attention. And I know you've just focused on one little bit, and that should do it. maybe it needs a bit more tonal variation, so you darken edges of it as well. So I'm afraid the Barnacles Army gets 12. I thought this was good. I tried doing some polarized light pictures, some of which worked and some of them don't. This is clever. Somebody's laid these things out carefully. So they've used these nasty plastic cutlery and some glasses. And then there's bits in the background that I thought, I don't know what they are. Are they bits of rock or what? The glass, the beautiful colours on it, aren't they? And quite well arranged. So I liked the patterns. I liked the colours. And because there are, all right, I can pick out the forks and the glass, but I've also got an abstractness to them as well because of the other things. So that ended up with a 17. Yeah, this one's gone completely, hasn't it? I don't know what it is. Somebody's moved their camera. Maybe it was lights, maybe it was reeds or grass or something like that. It's just a feeling of complete abstract. I don't know what it is. It's light streaks against a black background. Do they have enough shape to them? Do they have enough to keep my attention? Not sure about that. You know, initially I thought, yeah, that's quite good, but I'm afraid it worked its way down because the other pictures drew my attention more. So I'm afraid this went down to a 12. And Cyber Skull, again, I don't know what somebody's done here. They've taken a photograph of, I don't know whether it's a machine or one of these people who goes to Whitby and is wearing something on their face or what it is, but they have reduced it to edges and pastel colors, and they've faded it out into white. Does it work? It's still obviously some kind of mask and a machine. It is different, but I don't think it's gone far enough. You know, the last picture had almost gone too far. This one hasn't gone far enough. So I'm very difficult to please, I'm afraid. That one got 13. Okay, Central Exchange. Right. Now, I thought this was quite clever. It was one of the ones I picked out right from the word go to whiz into my top band because somebody's gone for a small bit of something. So we can't tell what it is. I mean, I think probably it's a bit of a train station and these are tiles and things like that. But I don't know. I can't tell that there isn't enough there to sort of tell me exactly what it is. And we've got some lovely shapes, bottom left, we've got these circles, and we've got this sort of swirl that goes down and then up again, and a thing that isn't quite a triangle, and vertical lines and horizontal lines. And it works, doesn't it? It's monochrome, it's great, it's pure black, pure white, and a grey bit in the middle. So I like that one. That got 17.
Carol, where the layer?
I did find, oh, well done, Carol. I did find that in your monochrome, there was a greater difference between the good and the not so good. I felt some people had really got the idea of monochrome. I love monochrome, but I find that an awful lot of people, they don't get good tone and quality. And for me, tone and quality is what it's all about. To start with, if you haven't got that, you haven't got a good mono. So don't be surprised when some of these don't get such a good mark. They might drop down because of lack of tone of quality. They might drop down because of lack of being abstract enough. So this one is Forgotten Tales. And I'm looking at it thinking, why has somebody destroyed a book and tied it up and hung it up onto a tree? And I didn't know. It wasn't abstract enough in that I can see there's a tree and I can see there's a book and I can even read some of the words in it. And you know, I'm going, why? And then I'm looking at the tones and thinking, well, all right, I have got blacks and I've got whites, but I've got an awful lot of white just behind where the book is. So it almost hasn't obscured that white bit. So I'm looking past the book into the very bright highlights behind. And I thought, I don't like that brightness that I've got, because it's dragging my eye away from what I think you want me to look at, which is this strange destroyed book. And I really don't understand why this has been done. You know, why is there a book hung up in a tree? It doesn't make any sense, does it? But is it abstract? And I don't think it is abstract. So from the point of view of whether it fitted the title or not, I wasn't convinced. And I'm afraid in amongst a group of others, it got 8. Right, this is another one that I felt was perhaps too close to what you could tell it was. So again, I've got some circles and some bubbles around the outside. It almost was a face, because I've got like 2 big circles and a little circle for the nose, perhaps. It sort of bubbles reflecting in something. I didn't know what they were. I've got 2 within the big circles. I've got 2 small areas of little circles. But my attention is divided between both circles. I'm looking at one and then I'm looking at the other. Which one do you want me to look at? Are the shapes good enough, different enough to be pleasing, or are those 2 circles too separated? Should they be closer together? Okay, I don't know what it is that has produced them, so it's abstract in that way. But I wasn't convinced by this one at all. And again, it's so tightly cropped that the edges of the big circles have been actually cropped off. And I'm going, that's not right. All right, they're diagonally placed on the frame, but it didn't work for me. So that was another one that got 8. We started off well, but I'm not sure about these. Glass imperfections, okay. I don't know what kind of glass it is. Maybe it's looking down a wine glass or something. And we've got bubbles within the glass is what I think it is. But now, this is one that I felt the tonal quality wasn't right. And I'm much more critical in monochrome of tonal quality, because to me, monochrome is all about tones. You need the tones from pure black to pure white and everything in between. Now, this has very pale outside, and it goes into grey, and then we get some sort of squiggly bits, and there isn't really a pure black in the middle. And your eye is always drawn to very light bits, so you actually get drawn out of this picture towards the outside. So somebody's had an idea, but I'm not sure that it actually has quite worked. I think you need your lighting done differently. You know, maybe you need side lighting or something. I'm not sure, but I think you need to have another go at this. It is abstract. I can't tell what it is, but I haven't got enough to keep my eye here looking at it, and I haven't got the tonal qualities here. So that's another one that got 8. Now this one actually works much better, which is strange, because it doesn't have a pure black anywhere. It's got white, top left-hand corner. It's got increasing greys, and it goes into dark grey, bottom right. But actually, it has this diagonal feel to it, and I'm brought into the picture somehow, into the sort of the middly swirls, and I think they worked. I'd say I've no idea what it is. I think maybe you were moving your camera to produce this effect, but it has produced an abstract picture in the end. And I quite like that one. It got 13, 1-3. Right, now this is a bit like those other bubble pictures. It's called Corruption, but I couldn't quite work out why it was corrupt. It looked to me more like you dropped something into, I don't know, glass of beer or something, and it was, or you've dropped something into water and it's created also bubbles as you've done it. It's strange, but it needs a shape, doesn't it? It needs something that gives me a feeling of a good shape, whereas this is just a big blob on the left and a huge area on the right, and lots of bubbles all over it. There's some in the background which are sort of blurry and out of focus. These, I mean, it almost looked like a monster on the right-hand area. You could kind of pick out an eye, maybe. Excuse me. talked too much. So I quite like the bubbles, but I didn't like the shapes that it ended up. You have got a tonal range, though. You've got black to white and things in between, but the shapes aren't there for me. So that was another one that got 8. Now this one goes to the other extreme. And what is it? It's just diagonal lines which are chopped off on the top right-hand corner. You've got black, you've got white, and you've got things in between. And it is pure abstract, isn't it? I could almost have this on my wall. My husband would probably say no, but it is something that you can kind of, in your mind, you can say, well, it could be a bit of a building, or it could be railings, or it could be, I don't know, all sorts of things. So it is abstract as far as I'm concerned. And I ended up quite liking that one. It got 16, 1-6.
John Slatter.
Right, hollows or hollows, I wasn't sure. I wanted it to be called hollows because it looked like wood, and the sort of shapes that wood goes into. I don't know what it is, but it had that feeling of wood as far as I was concerned. It has got a good tonal range. It's got black, it's got white, it's got all things in between. It's got some nice dark corners, which again helps because it brings my eye in towards these swirly bits, sort of left of center, but also these rather black, 2 black areas on the right-hand side. Now, I actually, those are the black areas you look at and you think, not sure about that. I preferred the swirly light areas. So I might have made it even more vignetted so that I was made to look at those white swirly areas because I thought they were nice shapes. But I did quite like that one. I felt it was lovely and abstract. I'm assuming it's wood, it might not be, but I think it works. And that gets 14, 1-4. Totally didn't understand the title of this. It's called Cat. And to me, it was a complete pattern picture of some strange object, or maybe it was a building. I have no idea, but it ended up as a complete pattern picture. Diagonally, so that's good. Perhaps too much of the same variations of colour all the way across. I don't, it hasn't really got anywhere for me to look at. Now, this is a mono competition, so you couldn't put something in. Somebody said, I see the cat, it's tiny, but I couldn't see a cat. Oh, right, slap bang in the middle. Yes, okay. So it looks, I don't know what it is. Is it what's the thing? Balconies or something like that with a cat sitting on it. I don't think the cat's big enough. It's just off center to the right, just above the right. It's a pattern picture. You don't notice the cat, it's a pattern picture. And as such, I wasn't convinced, but it got 14 even so, 1-4. And this one is different again. Again, I think this is ICM. So somebody's standing there and you've moved your camera and they were against a, I don't know, a shop window or something like that. So you've got a sort of ghostly glow around the outside. We've got some verticals and horizontals, which also helps. But your eye does keep coming back to that central bloke, doesn't it? Or woman, central figure. And also looks at the sort of the white bit behind. And I think that it does work. It's sufficiently abstract. I can tell there's a building, I can tell there's a figure, but I can't pick any details out. It's sort of grainy. It only just comes into I've got reasonable tones. It hasn't got a pure black and a pure white. They're fuzzy blacks and fuzzy whites. So that ended up with 13, 1-3. Right. This one is different. I did wonder whether it was one of those glass heads that people own, and it's had things done to it. I like the squirrely patterns. It's got the face shape, and yet it's sort of moved. There are definite lines in it, but it's still abstract because we've got so many squirrels within it. And I ended up really quite liking that one. It's got blacks, it's got whites, it's got everything in between, and it got 18, 18.
John Statter.
Whereas this one has kind of gone too far. It's called Black Moon. So presumably the shape, the outside shape of the circle is the moon. And then we've got things splattered onto it. And they're also circles. But there's kind of too much black. You know, these blobs just appear out of nothingness, don't they? I can't pick up a shape within them for my eye to settle. So it's going round and round and round. And because of that, it hasn't got something for the judge to go, yes, I could live with this. It's not abstract enough that they're out of focus. It's not sharp enough that I can say, oh, I can tell what that is. So I'm afraid it went down to the 8 group. And I felt this one was another one that was a bit too clear. It's a photograph of a bit of a industrial building or a street or something like that. It's buildings anyway. And I can see them, and I can see there are lights, and there are vertical shapes, and paving, a road with a white line on it. So it's kind of obvious what it is. It hasn't lost the detail. You know, if you'd gone to black and white completely, it might have picked up, it might have become more of an abstract, but it wasn't abstract enough to fit the title, I'm afraid. If you want, and if you title it "The World Marches On Around Me," then I think you need a person, and I was hunting for a person and I couldn't see a person, like that other one, which had a sort of blurry bloke in it. I think this one needed a blurry bloke. So this one ended up with 9. Yeah, I think Fractalius has been used here, and we've got something that almost looks like an animal, or maybe a very rude finger pointing to upwards, I don't know. It's called Reach, like reach for the sky. You know, you start going, well, is that grass or a harvest at the bottom, and is that thing that's sitting there a post, or is it a corn stook or something? I don't know. It's odd, isn't it? Is it meant to be a hand? It doesn't quite fit. It you know, it almost looked like it had got 2 ears and a nose at the top. So I'm not sure about this. I think they work probably better in colour than they do sometimes in black and white. And then you have that very hard halo around, you know, like the landscape at the back and actually the edge of the upright thing. So I started noticing bits. Yes, it's abstract in many ways because I don't know what it is. So it ended up with 14, 1-4. And this caused me a problem because it's twine. I can see it looks like rope, but you know, twine, all right, you're much closer in. And it is very definitely something that's almost recognizable, but it has got a good pattern. So in that way, it is abstract. And the pattern is diagonal lines, isn't it? So it goes, you know, across from bottom right to left, and it goes back to the right, and then in the background, it's going to the left, and then it fades out at the top, and it fades into darkness at the top, and it's dark at the bottom. So it kind of annoyed me in that I almost knew what it was, but because it was so close, because it was so macro, I didn't know exactly what it was. So I thought, well, this therefore does fit the title abstract. So in the end, even though it was very sharp, because it was a good pattern picture, it ended up with 15, 1-5.
Colin Yates.
Yeah, again, a bit more ICM. Somebody's gone into one of these prisons where you can go in and take pictures, and has created a feeling of gloom and fearfulness and you wouldn't want to be here, and the ghosts of the prisoners are there. You can't see them, but they might kind of make you think, oh, this is a nasty place. It's had horrible things happen in it in the past, and that kind of comes across. I get it, and this is what abstract should do. It should give you an emotion, a feeling of something, and this does, a feeling of, I kind of want to shrug my shoulders up and cross my arms and look carefully around myself, because there's nobody there, and yet there have been people there, sad people there. So it does work. So it got 13, 1-3. Yeah, I think this one has gone a bit too far. I don't know what it is. It says through a glass darkly. So is it a glass that you drink from, or is it, a porthole or something like that? What you end up with is lots of circles and then a sort of squiggly pattern in the middle and a black hole at the center. So it is abstract completely. I like the fact it's off center. It's not going to hold my attention for too long, because all it is just circles and squiggles. So it makes you look at it, but then you don't keep coming back to it. And for what I'm looking at, I need to keep coming back to things. So that one ended up with 13. Right, a complete swirl, and I think probably this needed to be in colour. I think the sort of the shades are not, if you like, attractive enough. It's a bit like that one we did have in colour, which was even more swirled, but it just comes in and then, okay, I've swirled into the middle, and now what? I haven't got anything to look at. It's got the shades, it goes from black to white, all in between, but I don't think the pattern is, if you like, attractive enough. So it didn't work for me. That one gets 9. On the other hand, this one's got even further, if you like, but it works. And I think it's because the pattern is interesting. I've got these sort of radiating lines, pale ones, going out from the center. And then I've got circles, top left, bottom right. And then I've got partial circles. And yet they're all fractured, aren't they? And my eye just kept coming into the sort of central area and then moving out and looking at different bits. I've got blacks, I've got whites, I've got some greys. And I thought that was really rather nice. And that one got 18, 1-8.
Graham Harvey.
And yet, this has gone too far the other way. It's got this black hole in the middle. So I look in a black hole. What do I see? I've got some radiating lines and a kind of cogwheel as well, but I've got very light bits on the edge, and it's grey on the left-hand side and it's white on the right-hand side. So the lighting is a bit strange. I mean, you've obviously lit it from the side. And it doesn't work in the end. Yes, it's abstract. I don't know what it is, but it hasn't got, if you like, a good enough shape to hold my attention. Maybe that central circle needs to be off-center, and you need to play with your lighting a little bit more to make it more interesting. Somebody said, is it a pencil? I don't know. It doesn't matter what it is. It's the shades I'm looking for, and it's the pattern that I'm looking for. And it didn't work for me, I'm afraid. It got 9. And this one I hated to start with completely, because I went, oh, it's a brick wall and it's zoom and it makes my eyes go funny and yuck. But actually, it's one of those that you keep coming back to thinking, it's quite clever, really. I don't want to look at it. I don't want it on my wall. But those horizontal, vertical lines, yeah, I know they're a brickwork. But I've also got these horrible, zooming, diagonal lines coming out from it. And the title's clever, seconds before impact. So can we move it quickly? It gets 13. Yeah, this is I think it should have an E in the middle of that. Somebody's gone in for macro and, all these books all at different angles. So they've created the patterns because they put them all, one on top of each other, but offset from each other. And then they've lit it. So we've got very harsh lighting. We've got the blacks, the whites, and some greys. And it's created quite an interesting route for your eye. So you sort of go up, and then you go left, and then you go up, and then you go left, and then you go. So it's kind of different, isn't it? And I thought that worked really quite well. So that one gets 16.
Katie Wabby.
Yeah, there's a steamboat slap bang in the middle. This is again a sort of a Photoshop production, isn't it? You press a filter button and it does this for you. I suspect this actually would be better in colour. I mean, we've got all the sort of buildings around the outside, and I think probably you'd get sort of blue skies and perhaps blues and greens and things like that in the central area for the water. Okay, it is an abstract effect. It has produced this sort of circular cogwheel almost with the centre point, but I think that it would be better in colour. So I'm afraid Mississippi Steamboat gets 12. Yeah, somebody's taken this building from below. It's a good angle, but I think you need to choose your day better, because you've got a very, very white sky. And I think if you'd done it when there was not perhaps an overcast sky, you'd have had a better background to your building. I know it's going to go black and white, obviously, but you can produce effects. You know, if you've got a cloudy sky, you'd have some nice swirly patterns in the background. The building itself is very, very grey. You could make so much more out of this. You could lighten the light bits, and you could, well, the dark bits are very dark, but you know, sort of produce some variations in contrast on this building. Taking it from this angle does kind of give it a more of an abstract effect. But again, if you'd ignored the sky completely, homed in on just a part of the building, so if you just sort of cover up the top half of your picture and look just at the bottom, there's verticals, there's diagonals, there's all sorts of different diagonals, and that gives you much better pattern than including this very large area of white in the top of your picture. You don't want a judge to be going, oh, I don't like the white, there's too much there. So you've got to cut them out somehow. So I'm afraid Barbican gets 9. Now, this is another one of those cheese grater pictures. I don't know what it is. It's a pure pattern picture. I had no idea how it was produced. These things could be metal or wood or dough or anything. They are lit from one side. There's one sort of bottom third right, which is white. There is another one right in the bottom, which is kind of white. So there is a certain pattern to it. It has got some tones within it, a reduced range of tones. There's not many greys. It's black or white or, you know, like one in between. But I'm not sure that there's enough to keep my attention. I looked at it, I went, yeah, it's abstract, it's a pattern picture, but I don't particularly like it. And I'm afraid in the end, a judge is also going to look for technical quality, does it fit the title, and do they like it? And it got 10. However, this one I thought was absolutely beautiful. It is a pattern picture. It is stark. It is black and white and nothing in between, but you've got these radiating circles of interest. So you start with the white in the middle, but it's quite small. And then you get the curve around it. And then you get things that I don't know what they are coming away from it, sort of vertical lines. And then they're increased in size and more oval. And then that reverses and they are reduced just to white splinters of light. And then that goes into the even bigger circle of splinters of white. And that one is my winner. It got 20.
Carol Weatherly.
Well done, Carol. Now this one is a bit like one of the colour ones, pixelated, and I think that's gone too far. I cannot tell what it is. I mean, I couldn't tell what the last one was, but I got shape and pattern. This one is sort of you say, pixelated, and it's almost a starburst. It goes out. But do you notice I've got the whites in the middle, and then I got a black layer, and then I got whites on the outside. And I wasn't convinced that you should have the whites on the outside. It was almost, you should have gone perhaps darkest to the outside. I don't know. But having looked at it, it didn't work for me, I'm afraid. It got 10. Right, this is like the colour ones, isn't it? And you know I like these. Again, somebody's clever. They've got the two outside ones are mirror images this time. They are the same, but flipped, you know? So it makes a good triptych. And in the middle, you've got something that's different, but it's still curves and ovals and horizontal lines, and pure black, pure white, but also greys in between. So that one was a 19, 1-9.
Yes. Reg Haslam.
This is a bit like that other pixelated one, but actually there is more shape to this. It says it's called Under the Wheel. Well, okay, it could be anything. To me, it looked like a building with, you know, sort of struts leading up to it. And I've got a good shape in the top. So it leads up to this sort of 4 square white bits. And I think that sort of works quite well. Do I like the pixelated effect? Not sure about it. And there is actually no white in this. It's grey or dark grey. So it ended up with 13, 1-3. Now, judges are stupid. They say they want things to be nice and abstract, and then they look at something and they go, I quite like that. And yet I can tell it's a Ferris wheel, and I can tell there are buildings, but it has had things done to it. So it is not the way it was. It is more abstract than it was when it started out. So it kind of worked for me. And I ended up, I like the shape, I like the sort of, not the colours, but the tones. And I went against my own rules and I gave it 17.
Graham Harvey.
And this one is another one that worked as far as I was concerned. I don't know whether it started up as a real orchid or whether it was one of those glass ones. I mean, it looks like glass, but it was kind of recognizable as a flower. It looks weird. It's got awkward shapes in it. And I felt that worked quite well. It does have a lot of white, and I might have trimmed some of the right-hand side off a little bit, and maybe some of the left, and perhaps tilted it, and just remove some of the brightness from, if you like, the top left, top right, right-hand side. But 16.
Anissa Sadat.
I couldn't make my mind up about this. I don't know Lancaster well enough to know whether it's a bit of Lancaster. I suspect it is. It's a building and it's had things done to it. It's sort of disappearing. It's beginning to crack up, and you know the top of it is going, but it has got an awful lot of white in this, and I'm not sure I like an awful lot of white like that. I've said before, I would start cropping this and going in much closer to the building, so that I'm more aware of the fact that it is crumbling away at the top. So yeah, it ended up with 15 in the end.
Anissa Sadat.
Somebody's being clever here and had a good idea. I do like the sort of the shape of the body, very beautiful sort of curve to the back, and that, you know, putting the moon there, the moon could almost sort of drop down into that hollow and sit there. I liked the wispy clouds in the background, and I think it was a good idea to create a you know, like a white line around the outside of it. I felt that worked. Now, is it not abstract enough? Well, I like the shape of the body, so that is an abstract of the body. It is only part of the body. We've got very little range of tones here, so in some ways that's making it more abstract as well. And you know, I'm sort of in the middle. This is in my middle band. It's going up a bit, then it's coming down, because is it abstract enough? Does it have enough tonal range? Is it a good picture? Is it pictorial? Yes, it is. And I do like that shape of the body. So in the end, you know, I'm looking at it again and wondering whether I'll put it up one mark. And I'm sure the person is sitting there going, yes, please do. So it's going to get a 16.
Ruth Lockery.
Right now, shades of grey in a blue world. Has this gone too far? It's nothing. It's just shades of grey, and then it goes up to the blue in the background. Would it work better if it wasn't just slightly irregular horizontal shapes? You know, we've got a recession, but do we have enough, particularly in the top half of the picture, is there enough there? And I wasn't sure about that. I think it's gone one step too far. I love the idea, but I want actually a little bit more definition in the bottom and then fading out to nothing in the top. And I think that was my problem. So I ended up with 11. Now, I think this one's clever again. I've no idea what it is. I like the repetition front to back. I like the repetition left to right. And it's shades from black to white and shades in between. It's a pattern picture, but it's attractive, isn't it? It's kind of pictorial. So that one ended up with 17, 17.
Daniel, start.
Okay, you've clocked that I like these, haven't you? Again, they're different left to right, but we've got squirrely shapes left and right, and then we've got circular shapes in the middle, and they converge, don't they? They cut across one another. But it's good, isn't it? It's got black, it's got white, it's got some greys, and I like the fact that you've got a white line around all of them, obviously a very thin white line. I like the fact that the center one is black on the outside, whereas the two left and right ones, the white actually goes out of the edge of the pictures. And somehow these work. I got 19.
Reg Haslam.
Right, I was saying to somebody else, you know, take a bit of a building and it can work. I think somebody's had a really good idea. I'm not sure that you've gone actually close enough. I like the right-hand corner, top right. I like the bottom bit where it went across, but I almost felt that there was too much of the top left bands going across. And I know that's difficult. And the only thing you could have done was actually turned your camera and made it more at an angle, so you were getting more of this sort of the joining, you know, the angle of the building where it came up and then it turned a corner. And I felt that would have made it a better art, a bit of the architect. But it got 11 in the end. Yes, I couldn't work out what it was. It's called touch. Is it fingers coming out of nowhere? I think you've got squirrely bits bottom right, top right, but you've got a white bit on top left. And I think you needed to fill that bit up as well. So it was all the same. A seal claw, wow. You can't tell what it is. But these white areas that go across, there's quite a large area of them, isn't there? And I think, you know, if it's been done with Fractalius or whatever, I think they needed to be filled in a bit more, because they're rather large areas of white. So I'm afraid that one didn't work for me. It got 11. Right, this one is clever. It's gone even further. So, you know, you're having a go at the judge here. We're going to put in a whole grey blank screen, and we're going to have 3 UFOs. Right. Are those UFOs too separated? You've got 2 on the left, 1 on the right. Are they in the right place? Could they have been a bit bigger? And I think perhaps they should be. It's not a picture I put on my wall. Yes, it's abstract in that there's not a lot there, but I'm not sure I like just grey. I like the UFOs, but I don't like the grey. So I'm afraid it got 11. Okay, contagion. Yeah, maybe it's, I'm not sure. I thought it was a plant. It doesn't matter. Oh, sorry, Alain Noir, beg your pardon. Yeah, at the bottom. It's, again, there's very little that's sharp. There's an awful lot that is unsharp on this, and yet the sharp bits are in odd places. So there's like a sharp thorn right on the edge of the picture on the right. There's a sharp bit in the middle, in the dark bit, and then everything else is blurry. Oh no, there's a bit sharp on the left. So it's very, very weird. Should your sharp bits be put in the place where you want me to look? So they shouldn't be on the edges of the picture, should they? They need to be somewhere that I'm going to notice them and keep my eye on them. And there were almost too many bits that were bright on the edges of the picture and out of focus. I mean, I actually put up one of my bits of paper and cut off half the left-hand side of this picture. And I thought it was better without the left, and maybe it was better without the bits at the bottom, because the shapes weren't attractive and I didn't know where I was looking. My eye kept going all over the place. Yes, that makes it abstract perhaps, but not, I've got to have something that I know that I'm looking at. And I didn't feel that actually worked. So it got 11. Oh yes, contagion. I remember that now. Somebody's got in close to a piece of metal, I suspect, and has picked out where there is something's been stuck on it, or it's changed color or what. I don't know what it is, but we've got this thing sort of creeping across it. So you could argue that, you know, that there is something contagious that is beginning to affect it, you know, in this days of pandemic. Perhaps we all start thinking horrible things like that. Does it work? It is, it makes you look at it. You don't necessarily like it. I think maybe the sort of the grey bit needed to be darker in some way, to be more obvious. It is there, but I wanted you to make me look at it a bit more. So perhaps just one shade darker grey. But it ended up with 12. Yep, this lady is definitely disturbed. It's odd. The knife is distinctly worrying. It's quite obvious that this is a woman in the last stages of fear, rage, murderous assault. I'm not quite sure what. It's different. It's kind of abstract because we don't have faces that have got, you know, 2 noses and 3 eyes and whatever. So it kind of works. And I ended up thinking, yes, I do like that. So it ended up with 16, 1-6.
Core dupes.
I think this has gotten too far. I tried to work out, I think this is a body. When I first saw it, I thought it was a chair. And then I decided it was the back view of a body, and somebody has got, you know, Venetian blinds and has lit it so that the light's coming in and is creating bars across it. So I'm not quite sure why it's called Emancipation. Naked body? Yeah, but then they've barred her. You know, they've prevented her getting out. So you start thinking, so, all right, that kind of works as well. Does it work in the end? Have I got a beautiful enough shape? And do you remember that the other naked body with the moon, that had more to it? This has gone more abstract, but I preferred the moon shaped one. So I'm afraid this one only got 12. Yeah, somebody's gone in close to these buildings in Hong Kong and has taken bits of these massive skyscrapers, but they've gone for the patterns, haven't they? And we've got different patterns. So we've got verticals, diagonals and horizontals. And because it's so close, you do kind of just take in the abstract nature of all these various angular shapes. And I thought that worked quite well. It got 13, 1-3. Yeah, water growing past a little rock. It's caught the light. I think it's a good idea. I like the sharp rock in that position and the water going past it. But I think it would have been better if it had been taken on a very, very overcast day so that the bright bits didn't catch the light quite so much, because I felt that they were very distracting. I mean, there's sort of very bright squiggles sort of centrally around the rock, as well as the flowy bits, which are going out of the picture. And then we've got some almost static bits in the top of the picture. So it was the quality of the lighting that I think has not helped this particular image, but I did think it was a good idea. It got 12. And the last image, who wants a slice of pizza? Well, you can all go and have a pizza and then something after this. Now, is it abstract? Is it too obvious? It's a pizza knife leant up against the walls. We've got a shadow. I can see the wall. I can see what it's standing on. I wasn't convinced about it being very good for abstract, because I can see it's a pizza knife. So it wasn't it wasn't quite what I wanted. I wasn't convinced that it was either totally monochrome either. There's grey and there's purple and there's black. So it's not completely toned image, but it's not completely black and white either. So I only got a 12. I think that's your last image.